Hola, ¿cómo está? Today I'm going to address the notion of black separation, African American separation from the rest of the world. This scientific thing called melanin. I also want to address how basically the political scheme behind most of the people who actually taught us about melanin and the people who actually spread the message about melanin to the black community or to the African American community, and through that we spread the message to the rest of the African world. Now I want to start by addressing the fact that there is a huge misconception when it comes to the African Americans' duty on this planet. You see, spiritually, a lot of people get into the fact that they use their information from science in order to gain information about the spiritual world. And this is all because of relativity, you feel me? The same way the astronomer uses relativity and mathematical equations to figure out the radius of the sun just by knowing the radius of our planet and knowing the diameter of our planet and so on. It's the same way that spiritual people use scientific notions in order to make spiritual notions and moral notions. You see? Now this is going to get really technical because the only reason that, the only excuse that somebody who's a politician in the black community or the African American community or the African community in this country and the worldwide Pan-African community, the only reason somebody would actually bring up scientific facts that their quote-unquote enemy and the people who they say are demons, the people who most of us are getting our information from actually see some other races as animals, that as if they aren't animals, okay? They actually see themselves as aliens or extraterrestrial aliens. They see other races as inferior, other races as not intelligent, other races as more savage, and this is all in their mind backed up with scientific evidence. And beyond that, what they take from the scientific evidence into their own vehicle of thought called the brain in order to make something called spiritual evidence. The evidence of spiritual differences and separation between the rest of the human population. Now, the only reason that you could use scientific facts from the people who you say are inferior to you is if you are lacking your own scientific evidence. Okay? Now, in true science, if you're a true scientist, that means you're automatically whitewashed. If you are a scientist and what is visualized as being a scientist in today's time frame, then you are whitewashed. Now, what is whitewashed? Whitewashed, and I'm not going to give you no outside definition. This is all about Soulja Nation and the Soulja people and the way we communicate. So, whitewashing is not something in which white people come and, make you white over time through their culture or through their even physical encompass. Whitewashing is literally just the fact that white people come to a country, they stay there for a while, and after a couple generations, the original or aboriginal people of that land lack the ability to find facts for themselves. They simply lack the ability to find facts for themselves, as if their brain has been completely washed with like white ink or some shit. You feel me? Blank. Now this is the brainwashing. You see? If somebody comes and takes away your ability to comprehend and your tools, such as your brain, your senses, your awareness, your ability to breathe, all your abilities, okay? All of your abilities, the ones that we on a level can't even understand yet truly, because we are in this whitewash system. But anyway, when you have been mistaught about all of the ways in which you communicate with the universe, you feel me? It literally paralyzes your brain, okay? Your brain becomes static, and static is something that fluctuates only within a minimum, range. It only fluctuates at a minimum, or how can I put this? The equator, okay? Let's say if you're static, that means you only stay at the equator. You never experience the other, frequencies or the other bands of energy outside of the equator. And this is what's going on with you and I. You see, we have been taught by people who are literally static in the mind, but taking information from people who they think are static in the mind. Okay? They're telling you that the people who they get their information from are static in the mind, meaning they have inferior thought processes to the African and all these other things. They're not able to connect to the universe. And if you think about it, this is kind of like a psychological side effect of your static mind. A very deep one. You see, I use the analogy for this that if you know there's something inside of a cookie jar, okay, for example, let's say you're a kid and there's a cookie jar on the table, but you're too short to see the cookie jar. But sometimes when you ask for a cookie, your mom says yes, she takes you to this place, she reaches up there and she gets the cookie out the jar. Okay, you've seen the jar before, but somehow you don't have access to it because you're too short. Your physical stature doesn't allow for it at that moment in time. You might not have the resources around you, such as a ladder or something else, to even be able to walk up the ladder and get the cookie jar. Okay? And once this happens, over time, you associate the cookie jar with your parents. You feel me? You associate the cookies with being inside of the jar, contained, locked up. You feel me? Not only that, but you associate the cookies with being so good that they deserve to be locked up, and that if they weren't locked up, you would eat all those fucking cookies up in one day, because you don't have the responsibility in yourself at that time to be able to control the cookies. Now, I went very technical with that metaphor and analogy because I wanted you to get all the details of the situation you're in right now. Now, with the reverse, bringing that back to you and I, you feel me? And the people who we learn from are taking information from the people who they say are static, inferior, and plain out don't have the communication skills in order to connect with the rest of the universe, such as you and I. They're taking the information from them And they're creating something called a spiritual set from it, something that you and I can connect with each other on. You feel me? And over time, as this is happening, we have a very vague sense of the universe. You feel me? In the same sense as you, the same way that you would see that cookie inside of that cookie jar, meaning knowledge, you would start to see that knowledge is something that you need to be trained to have. You feel me? Meaning that the same way that when you were a little kid and you saw that cookie in the cookie jar, you know that if those cookies wasn't on that fucking shelf and it wasn't in that jar, then you would eat it all. Now this is the same way with you and knowledge, okay? Whenever you get a little bit of knowledge, you want all of that shit. You don't have the discipline in yourself. You don't have the mental respectability in yourself to only eat one cookie or only study one subject at a time. You feel me? And this is because your teachers who taught you all your information have done the same exact thing. You feel me? They're greedy in knowledge. Now, what is the jar for these cookies? The jar is the, what's it called? The jar is the hiding of the knowledge. The jar is the secrecy, the secret societies. The jars is in your physical understanding. It's the schools. It's the books that you read. It's other people's minds that you want to pick apart. It's nature also. All of these things are encompassing all the knowledge that you want, right? There are barriers between you and the knowledge that you know that you feel as though if those barriers weren't there, these physical things, you feel like they're stopping you from learning things, really, because they're illusions to you. But in reality, they're not stopping you from doing anything. You just have to literally see through it, as if the glass jar that the cookies are in. You feel me? You have to see past these things and know that they are knowledge themselves. You feel me? Since the physical has been coded so that you see it as the physical, then you know at that point that you don't have the discipline, where you assume or you can know that you don't have the discipline needed in order for you to have the knowledge that that tree has, that that person has, that that book can have, or that mathematical equation to physics can have. You feel me? Or the theories of relativity could have. All these things are one. You feel me? And right now, we are, okay, that's the word I was looking for. It's a scarcity in knowledge. So that scarcity in knowledge is that jar. All those vehicles of physical and that physically encompass that jar are the ones that I named. But since that jar is there, you automatically assume, or you feel like you know, that you have to be disciplined, you have to have a certain amount of power to have this knowledge, and that you only can have certain characteristics, and that the universe will only give this knowledge to people with certain understandings and characteristics inside of their personality or their own morality. And this is where the spirituality aspect comes in on one side, and the scientific accreditation comes in on one side. You see, there are two sides of the same beast. One in which the scientists, they use all this technology, they get all the money because we fund them, because they make all of our fucking tools, and over time, if you give all your money to people who make cell phones, give all your money to people who make TVs, give all your money to people who make fucking fake food, then they gonna have all the power. And the people who are used to having all the fucking power are not gonna be able to say shit or do shit for you because you didn't give them the money anymore. In this system, at least. So, literally, now the scientists have all the power because we paid for that shit. We gave them all the power because we think that technology is more important than nature. So we give them all our money. Now they have the money to do all the research they need. And with this research, they have literally become so advanced, or they got so much data, that they feel like they can't even communicate it to you anymore. You're so far behind. Because you've literally pushed them to a point with your support in which literally they know so much, or they know so many small details about the universe, that they've pieced it together with relativity, and at this point in time are living in a completely different understanding than you, a completely different universe than you, okay? And it's all because right now you have a lack of that data, and you have a lack of that of those statistical inputs in order to make relativity and form a complete image of the universe in your mind. Okay? So what you do is we do something called spirituality. Now spirituality is very key to the being's understanding of life on this planet. You feel me? Spirituality is the consciousness when you're looking at yourself, the barrier, you feel me, between you and the rest of the universe. That's spirituality. The energy that flows within you. Now, when we don't have the scientific data and input to put into these equations of relativity, we have holes in our map of the universe, holes in our understanding of the universe, okay? And this is what creates spirituality, because you still have some type of gap in your mind to create. Now that creativity is the high that you get from being alive, okay? Now, you can have creativity or you can have facts 24/7, which the scientist has. Creativity is the spiritual aspect of it, in which you don't know, how much you know is determined on how creative you are. You see, the less you know, it's the more you channel the energy inside of you in order to figure shit out, and you express it through yourself. You feel me? And that's the spirituality aspect of it, because when you don't know something, you start guessing and creating shit, and eventually that can come into reality and become the universe itself. The opposite poles of the same beast. You feel me? Spirituality and science go hand in hand, but every field of thought that you learn from, especially in the African community, teaches you that they are completely separate. And that's because the scientists who have all the information, they've encoded all the information to the point to where only certain people can actually get this shit. You have to see past all the illusions, you see. You have to be able to be a sociopath and be able to bring yourself back into your human encompass, and also turn back into a human and have feelings and be able to care about people, which is the spiritual side. Be able to create things with other people. You feel me? But once you are on either end of the belly of the beast, the spiritual side and the science side, thinking that this is the limit that you can go, then that means that you're living in an illusion. Because in reality, there is no fucking limit. There is no limit to the universe. And you saying that science is the ultimate knowledge or spirituality is the ultimate knowledge is literally just what I've explained in this video. That the science is the complete knowing of the universe. Putting all these facts and data and inputs into your brain and also computers in order to figure out with equations of relativity the actual happenings of the universe. You don't want creativity. You don't want to be spiritual if you're a scientist. That means you've put boundaries in the universe. It's equally, if you're spiritual and you think that spiritual set is greater than the actual communication between you and the universe, that all you need to do is create all day, then you will eventually destroy things the same way that the scientist has to do in order to figure shit out. The scientists always have to split shit apart to figure it out. They have to destroy it, look inside it. They don't want to see that shit living in order to figure it out. You see, the spiritualist wants to see that shit living. They want to see how it acts when it's breathing. You feel me? How intelligent it is. They want to create with that. But if you don't mix in all the knowledge of your brothers and sisters and respect it, and see that everybody has a key role in this universe, and that is literally the boundaries of the universe. The imagination and what we know is literally the boundaries of the universe. Now, if you try to literally force upon everybody to think that science is a certain way, or that spirituality is a certain way, or that one is dominant and more dominant than the other, and what you're doing is actually creating a separation between the two and making yourself ignorant to the fact that they go hand in hand. You can't have science without spirituality, because spirituality is life itself. You can't have spirituality without science, because science is literally spirituality itself. It's your attempt to understand yourself. That's all science is. And you are trying to understand yourself. You can't understand yourself if you weren't there. That's the spiritual part of it. Now, you're supposed to know this as a human being. You're supposed to respect this. That literally all this is happening inside of you, the inside and outside at the same time. And we know this. This is what spirituality teaches you. And equally, this is what science teaches you, that you can't separate yourself from the universe. But both of those are marketing to you through this capitalistic system that they are extremes, that they are boundaries of the universe, and that they are, in a way, all-knowing. When you can ask either of these schools of thought a question at any point in time, and they will literally tell you they don't know. Both of them. Jesus, black African spiritual people, fucking Catholics, Buddhists, they will tell you they don't know. Equally, a fucking astronomer, a chemist, a fucking astrologer, a fucking, biologist, they will tell you they don't know everything. But they still write books in the mind state that they do know everything, and they want you to think that they know everything just so you can buy the book. And that's because you as a person have become a beast. You are static. You have no craving for knowledge if it is not if it is not outside of this capitalistic system. They have to market knowledge to you just for you to want to understand it. And this is your fault. It's not their fault. They're intelligent. They're the ones out there using the research and researching shit. You should be thankful for this. Now, what they don't have to do is translate their research in a way for you to understand it as a being. And that's what you're looking for them to do. You feel me? You want them to do everything for you because your marketing system and your capitalistic and communistic systems have taught you to motherfucking only respect shit that you can buy. You don't respect nature. You don't respect what's in nature, so you will never even try to test nature. You're so scared to test nature because literally you can't buy that shit. You can't buy nature. You can't make nature. You can't break nature. You can't split nature in half and actually study it. You feel me? So you paying scientists to do that shit just the same way that you paying the government to hire evil people to go to other countries and destroy them. Is the same way you hiring scientists to send big ass unknown machines to other planets in order to get gases from them. And now these gases, when they come back to Earth, they know all this shit and you never hear about any of it. Because you actually want them to not tell you that shit. If they sit up there and told you what the scientific way of them understanding what they brought back from other planets, you would fucking not pay attention to that shit. You would call them smart and you would say, okay, I ain't got time for that shit. So what they got to do is wait 10 years, write a book about everything they found, and then by the time you figure the information out, it's already new information out that you won't be able to understand. Because you're too lazy mentally to actually go to these science laboratories, demand that you get that information so that you can actually see what's going on in your universe. You feel me? And actually input that inside of your creativity and your spirituality. You got to be able to have that drive to know things. All these holes in our universal map of understanding and shit, we can fill those in right now. And we have this fear that if we fill ourselves up for knowledge, we'll be dead on the inside. That we won't be creative, we won't have any life, we'll just walk around knowing everything, and we won't actually even be able to enjoy life. But in actuality, you're only able to enjoy life. Everything that you enjoy life, everything that you get comfortable from, comes from a system of knowledge. The way you take a bath, the way you have this phone in your hand, the way you drink water out of a sink, the way that you store your food in a refrigerator, the way you cook your food, those all came from scientific notions that were tested out. That people used to think were sins, that people used to think were stupid. But now we use that shit every fucking day. So it's up to you to spark that knowledge in your mind, to get back out there in nature, reconnect yourself to the forms of communication so that you can understand the universe, so that you can give your spirit something to live for and something to wonder about. You see, if you don't go out in nature, if you don't connect to the universe and try to figure shit out with your own mind, then you start looking to other humans for answers. And they are doing nothing but creating shit up in their head, which is okay. It's needed. But you cannot base spirituality off of things that somebody else tell you. You cannot base spirituality off of creativity. Because spirituality is there no matter what. It's going to be there. It's going to be the same. It's going to be in the same cycle. It's going to give you the same thing at certain periods of times. That's why you can use equations of relativity. You see, you might be in this certain point in the universe right now, but in 2 months you'll be in a completely other place, and you won't be able to even remember the place you're at because you are not even aware that you're moving through the universe right now. So what do you have to do? You have to make up these equations so you can look around you and see that if you're looking at the sun and the sun is at a certain angle or the moon is at a certain angle, then you can realize that you're at a certain point, and with that angle you could literally multiply that times the radius of a certain. You can multiply that times the certain radius or the surface of a certain thing in the sky to see where you are. You feel me? And that's a map right there. You feel me? But if you don't understand that, literally, you need that sun right there, not just for food, but to know where the fuck you are in the universe. If you don't know that, if you think that the map that you're looking at, a man-made technology that you use to travel the world with, that's not the actual map. The actual map is the sun, nigga. The actual map is your brain in the sun. Now, this map that is written down, that's a creative depiction of the actual map that's going on, but that's not the real map. You feel me? That's something for a child to look at and understand. But after that child look at that and understand, they're supposed to download that and multiply it in their head. They're supposed to multiply that knowledge. They're supposed to take what they have learned from that map, input factors and data from the universe in real time, and literally create that map in their head so they won't need the physical map on that table, or they won't need the globe. And with that being said, you have now broken the spell of ignorance.